You're listening to the Life Coaching Secrets Podcast, episode number 19. Did you know that life coaches are needed now more than ever? I'm Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy. I've trained over 1,000 coaches and helped them launch their own successful coaching businesses. If you want to make an incredible income and impact as a coach and have a lot of fun doing it, I'll show you exactly how to get it done. This is Life Coaching Secrets. What's up, coaches? In this episode, I am going to talk about toleration. This is a topic I'm so passionate about. I'm going to break down what it means to tolerate something or someone. I'm going to share when it is and isn't appropriate to tolerate things in our life. And I'm also going to share why tolerating keeps people from going from good to great. Now, before I dive into this topic, I want to share a couple of updates. One of our celebrations, one of our newer coaches, Shelly, she just recently enrolled her very first paying client, which is amazing. She just signed on a client for $1,500. And when she celebrated this with us, she said that now that she's enrolled her first client, she can't wait to book the next client and the next client and the next client. And I love that she shared that because really earning your first $1,000 as a coach is the foundation to then earning your first $100,000. So big congrats to Shelly. This is just the beginning. We're also getting very excited for this coming weekend. This is our Module 2 weekend where we teach advanced coaching skills. So the Academy is a 6-month certification program, and there are 3 different checkpoint module weekends that our coaches go through. These are delivered live, and the coaches that are currently going up to their Module 2 this weekend, they're about halfway through their journey to certification. And I gotta say, our newest coaches, they are really next level. They are just so phenomenal. They have been showing up so fully to the Academy, so I cannot wait to see what opens up for them this weekend. I think Mod 2 is really that tipping point where our coaches go from learning how to do coaching to learning how to be a coach. So super pumped for our advanced coaching module this weekend. Okay, so let's talk about tolerating. I define tolerating as energy that is used to settle for mediocre. Energy that is used to settle for mediocre. I think of toleration as a disease that eats away at our dreams. Because the more things that you tolerate in life, the more you settle, the less meaning and excitement your life has. And I believe that toleration is really what keeps most people from taking their life from good to great, from going from an okay life to an amazing life. So it's very important to notice where toleration might be showing up in your life and also in the lives of your clients. And I think it's our duty as coaches to help our clients realize where they're settling and slipping into complacency. I want you to consider that the less things in life that you tolerate, the more things in life you end up celebrating. Let me say that one again. The less things in life that you have to tolerate, the more things in life you end up celebrating. Now, there are many different things in life that you might be tolerating. Here are some examples. You might be tolerating a relationship that you're in, whether it be an intimate relationship, a relationship with a family member, a colleague, or even a friendship. You might be tolerating a career that you're in, right? The salary that you're making. You might be tolerating the home that you're living in, the city that you reside in right now, the environment. And you might also be just tolerating the person that you're being in the world and the contribution or lack thereof that you might currently be making in the world. You might just be tolerating the person you are right now. So why is it so important to notice your own tolerations? If you want to be an example of what's possible and live a life that is full of meaning and really create a life of your dreams, you must be willing to eliminate all tolerations. So often people wonder, my life's already so good. Why should I change anything? This is a really sneaky limiting belief that people have. They think life is good. It's good enough, right? Why should I really rock the boat or change anything around? Now, the reason that you don't want to tolerate good enough is because life never stays good enough, right? We call good enough until it becomes stagnant. And then we become complacent, and then we become bored, and then life just loses its meaning. We have one life to live, and I believe that we owe it to ourselves to go all in. This is our only shot. So I want you to consider that all of the energy that you currently put into tolerating mediocre, all of that energy could be put into creating the magnificent. Okay, I really want you to hear that. Toleration, it takes an expenditure of our energy to tolerate people and circumstances and things that we don't really get joy from. It's energy to put up with and tolerate all of that. So that the energy that we put into justifying why something is the way it is, or all the energy we put into trying to find the silver lining all the time, that can become exhausting. The energy that you put into tolerating people and jobs and circumstances that don't light you up. But once you give up good for great, you get to start creating great. You see it come to life. But when you don't address tolerations, the best that you can possibly get is a mediocre life. Now, some people confuse toleration with acceptance. So I want to distinguish between toleration and acceptance. Some people think, I accept what I have in life, when really they're just tolerating something and they wish that it would be different. So you need to be very mindful about whether you are accepting something in your life or whether you're really tolerating it. Now, toleration, it brings you temporary relief from frustration, okay? Toleration feels heavy. If you could really have it your way, you would want something to be different. It kind of works like an aspirin, okay? Toleration, it's a pain reliever, but it's not a pain remover because the pain comes back. It never really goes away. So you start wishing that things would be different again, and then you go back to just thinking, you know what? I should just accept what I have. But you can't accept what you have if it's not what you truly want when you get honest with yourself. So accepting what you have might sound like the mindful approach to take, but really, it's not. You might wonder, what does acceptance actually look like then? What does it really feel like to accept something? So acceptance brings us peace. It feels light. When we really accept someone and something, it feels light. Right? It's when you're willing to let something be completely as it is without changing it, and you love it for what it is. That's acceptance. So the key is really knowing what your real desires are, right? Because you want the things you accept. You don't want the things that you tolerate, right? We tolerate things that we don't want. We accept things that we do want. So for example, if you're in an intimate relationship, toleration would sound like you saying, well, I mean, he's a nice guy, so I should just be happy with what I have. I should just accept what I have. But you aren't having fun in the relationship and you don't really see a future with that person. That would be an example of toleration. Because acceptance would sound like you saying, I love you and I wouldn't change a thing about you. Hear the difference? Here's another example. In a career, toleration would sound like you saying, well, I mean, it is what it is. At least the job pays the bills. I should just be grateful and accept it. But deep down, if it weren't for the money, you would be out the door doing something else. Acceptance would sound like you saying, I love my career. I love the work I do. I wouldn't change anything about it. That's acceptance. So you might wonder, are you able to tolerate something and accept it at the same time? No, you cannot be tolerating something and accepting something at the same time. So it's really important for you and your clients to get honest with themselves about what they truly want. Now, I also realize that as I go through this episode, some of you might hear what toleration is, and you might start thinking, oh my goodness, I am tolerating a lot. I didn't even realize how much I was tolerating. That was certainly the case for me too. So you're not alone if this episode kind of hits you in the head like a 2x4. Okay, but I think it is a good thing to become aware of what you're tolerating, because that is the first step in really going from good to great. So I want you to start recognizing all of the things in life that you're tolerating right now. You might be shocked at first when you start uncovering this list of tolerations that you've been carrying around and leaving unresolved. But again, all of the energy that you're putting into tolerating things in your life that are just good enough, all of that energy could be put into creating the life of your dreams. So here are some signs that you are tolerating something. I'm going to share with you how you know if you're tolerating something or someone. One sign is if you often justify or rationalize the way things are. Oh, but he's just really sweet to me. Oh, but this job pays the bills. But I like my boss. I feel like we usually go into that high-pitched voice whenever we're tolerating. We go, well, we start our sentences like that. Well, I mean, I guess it's okay. But really, when we get honest with ourselves, we know that we are tolerating. Another sign is if the experience that you're going through is you feel like you're going through the motions. You're just putting up with people and places with things. You're just getting through, okay? Another big phrase I often hear clients say when they're tolerating is, but I've been here for so long, right? Here's that high-pitched voice, but I've just been in this relationship for so many years by now. I should just accept it. Or, but I've just been in this job for so long. I've already put so much time and effort into this, right? That is a sign of toleration. So another sign that you might be tolerating is if you have a part of you that people pleases. If you're trying to keep the peace because you're afraid of rocking the status quo, all right? That could be a sign you're tolerating. If you just would rather not stir the pot, you would rather keep the peace, but it's at the expense of your truth. It's at the expense of your deepest desires, okay? Another sign you might be tolerating is if you are needing to force yourself to think positively, right? Oh, I should just look on the bright side. I should just focus on the positive. I'm being too negative about this, okay? If you find that you're forcing yourself to find the silver lining, that's a sign that you're tolerating something. I once heard this metaphor that tolerating is kind of like polishing a turd. So it looks really shiny on the outside, but it's still crappy on the inside. It doesn't change the fact of what's true, okay? So those are some ways that you would know if you're tolerating something. Okay, if you're trying to force something to seem better than it really is. Now, I want to share some other common phrases and words that people use when they're tolerating, because it's uncommon that someone's going to directly say, I'm tolerating this person, or I'm tolerating this situation, right? Like when you're new to this concept, you might have different ways of describing things in your life to reveal that you're tolerating. So toleration, it might sound like you telling yourself, oh, it'll get better, right? I'm sure things will just get better. Now, I used to hear this a lot. I used to believe this idea that things would just get better over time. And what I realized is that unfortunately the opposite is usually true, okay? Nothing gets better unless you get better. In fact, things will most likely get worse, because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep perpetuating all the things in life that you have and don't want, whether it be your current job, your relationships, or your health. So the idea it's going to get better sounds really reassuring, but it can also lead to a lot of regret and a lot of disappointment, okay? And for a long time, I would just wait for things to get better. I'm hoping things are just going to resolve themselves. The situations will just change. The people will just change. And I realized that I was the one that needed to change. I needed to show up differently. I needed to remove myself from relationships, from careers, and from circumstances in my life that weren't serving me. Okay? And I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I decided one day to stop tolerating, because I was able to start creating the life I actually wanted. But it didn't happen until I put my foot down and said, no more tolerating. I'm no longer going to live this one life I have to just tolerate good enough. All right? So there's also a 4-letter F word that is used when people are tolerating something. Can you guess what it is? What do you think the 4-letter F word is? The answer is fine. The word fine, F-I-N-E. So when we describe things in our life as fine, that's a sign that you're tolerating. How's your job? Oh, it's fine. How's your husband or wife? Oh, they're fine. So think about it. When you ask people about their life, how often do you hear people say it's fine? Everything is just fine. Because people really aren't fine. They're just learning how to endure and settle and put up with what is. That's not fine. All of the times that we say things are fine, we're just putting up with that. And then fine becomes stagnant. And when that starts happening, our life gives us nudges. Our life starts to nudge us to level up. And then those whispers become roars. And that doesn't go away, right? Our dreams don't leave us alone. They stay with us. And either we express them and we get to see them come to life, or we suppress them and they become regret and disappointment and shame. So some other phrases that people use when they're tolerating things is, it is what it is, or it's meh. I'm sure we've all heard someone describe something as meh. We all know what it's like. It's just meh. You kind of like open your hands, shrug your shoulders. It is what it is. Like, how's your job? Meh. That's a sign that something's being tolerated. So I want to explain why we tolerate things, because this is important to know. Why do we tolerate things, and also how could we change it? One of the reasons we tolerate is we're afraid of change, right? We think that it is easier to just put up with the circumstances we're in now than to create change. And this is an illusion that we buy into, but it's not actually true. We think that it's going to be more uncomfortable to change our situation to pursue something differently. But really, this is an illusion, because what we're experiencing now is painful, right? You might think it's easier to tolerate something rather than change it, but it's really not true. There's a primitive part of our brains that just wants to conserve energy and avoid pain and seek pleasure, right? That's what the primitive part of our brain wants to do. That's what causes us to just stay where we are. It's like, don't bother. Don't change anything. Just stay where you are. Stay in the relationship. Stay in the job, right? Like, just stay in the house. But toleration never ends well. It leads to comfort, which leads to complacency, which leads to disappointment, and then ultimately regret. And dreams go unfulfilled, and so much of life is missed out on, because deep down, you know that you're not living to your potential. So I want to present to you a scenario as a way for you to check in with your level of desire for having a full life, and also your level of comfort with not tolerating things. So imagine that you're at a restaurant with some friends, and let's say that you were served some food and it was terrible. You just didn't enjoy the food you had. Would you tolerate that? Like, would you just accept the plate of food that you were given, even if it was really bad? Let's say it was just poor quality food. Something was really off about it. Would you ask for the waiter or the waitress, would you ask for the server to give you something else? Right? Would you feel bad for the server or the chefs or the restaurant if you would say something? Would you be uncomfortable asking for your order to be corrected because of how other people at the table might feel? Like, would you feel comfortable declaring your opinion when other people are there to maybe judge you for sharing? So sometimes the way that we do one thing is the way that we do everything. So when you think about what you do in the restaurant, I want you to think how that might possibly show up in the rest of your life. So I used to be someone that was very afraid to express concerns that I would have when I was at restaurants. I would be really nervous to do that. So I would just tolerate whatever I was given. Like, I remember sometimes I was even given a totally wrong plate, and I would just say, you know what? It's okay. I'll just have it. It'll be fine. There's that word, fine. But it got to a point where eventually I was realizing that this was a theme in my life. I wasn't letting myself really go after what I wanted. I would tolerate so many things that were just handed to me. And remember one time I had this whole conversation in my head about it. I thought, is this really a big deal? Like, should I really care about this? So I realized that if I got to be honest with myself, right? I'm not sure what the server will think. I'm not sure what my friends will think that are eating with me, but I just know what I think and I know what I want, right? And I know that I don't want to tolerate anymore. Because for my whole life up until that point, like whenever I'd see a server come up and they'd say, how's the meal? I would just say, oh, it's good. It's fine by default, even if it wasn't really that good. So I remember the moment one day when I was served something that I didn't ask for or wasn't like good quality. And the server asked, how's the meal? And I said, actually, this wasn't quite what I expected. And I assumed that that would be very awkward and it would just be a terrible conversation. But the server was actually so accommodating. They were like, oh my gosh, let's get that fixed up right away. And the result was I got to have a meal that I really enjoyed. But it wouldn't have happened if I just continued tolerating all of the wrong meals that were served to me when I'd go out, or all of the poor quality meals. So the reason I'm sharing this story is because I think our life works like this interaction that I had with the server at the time, right? When we want something and we end up with something that is meh, it's fine, it is what it is, and we just tolerate it, right? We have the choice to continue tolerating that thing, or we can simply ask for what we want unapologetically and go after it. So what are you tolerating in your life right now? What's just good enough? What's fine? One activity that I often have clients do is I have them keep a journal of all the things in life that they tolerate. I have them go through a week of their life and keep a tolerations journal. Write down everything in life that you notice you're tolerating. And it is amazing what comes up. So if you think of your life right now, I'm going to take you through a few areas of life, and I want you to give yourself an evaluation. Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is you are totally fulfilled in that area. You're celebrating in that area. It couldn't be any more meaningful. And 1 means it's completely unfulfilling. Couldn't get any worse. And let's say a 5 out of 10 would be it's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. So how would you evaluate your current career on a scale of 1 to 10? Where would you give yourself that score? Again, a 5 would be it's fine, 10 would be totally fulfilling, and 1 would be totally unfulfilling. Now, how about your current financial situation, the money that you have in your life, the money that you're earning and creating? How satisfied are you with that? Now, what about your intimate relationship in your life? Now, you might be single and be totally fulfilled and okay with being single. So give yourself a score no matter your relationship status. Okay, it's not about being in the intimate relationship. It's just about assessing what's your satisfaction with your intimate relationships in your life. Now give yourself a score with your friendships. Right? And you can even go through all of your friendships, your close friendships individually, and assess how fulfilled are you in that relationship, in that friendship. What relationships are fine, right? Because all the energy you put into tolerating the fine relationships could be put into creating amazing friendships that you really enjoy having. Okay, next I want you to evaluate your family relationships. And again, you can do this with each individual family member. Just give a score to how you feel about the relationship as it is right now. And then finally, your home, okay, your community. It could be the physical home you live in, the community that you have or don't have in your life. How satisfied are you with that? Give yourself a score. Now, some people do this and they realize they're tolerating so many things in their life. If so, if you realize that, it's okay, okay? What's important is what you do about it. Okay, so I want to give a quick story about another thing that happened recently that I realized I was tolerating, and it was draining me so much. So I was using a local printing company to produce and print out the manuals that we send off to our students. When our students enroll in the academy, we ship them a few training manuals they have hard copies of. And I knew for a while that the printing company I was using, they were just good enough. I was going with them and using their services because it was convenient. They were across the street, literally across the street from me. And I just kept saying, oh, at least it's convenient. That was how I was tolerating it. Oh, it's convenient just to use them. But to be honest, the staff was not pleasant to deal with. They made many mistakes, and I knew I'm just tolerating this. And I was rationalizing it for so long. Okay, whenever I would send a project to be printed, I would have to follow up several times to make sure it was done. There would often be mistakes, and it was just so much exhaustion that was put into maintaining a toleration. I was putting so much energy just to maintain something that I was tolerating. And I realized that nothing was going to change if I continued to put my energy into tolerating. But I was afraid about leaving behind this printing company because I thought, I don't think there's any others out there. It's going to be a lot of work to form a connection with a new printing company and, get them to understand what my desires are as the client. And I realized that I needed to stop indulging in that drama and just go for what I wanted. No more toleration. I had all this drama in my head around how hard it was going to be to find a new printing company. And I was like, wait a second, but I'm tolerating the current one. Okay, so I just have to find one that goes beyond toleration. I had in my mind this idea there wasn't going to be anything better out there, but I didn't even give myself the chance to look for anything else. Okay, but one of the things that I know to be true is that whatever you look for, you will find. If you ever want something better in your life, you will find it. Just simply having the desire for it and the intention for it and the belief that it's out there, you will find it. Okay, if you ever want to find great, you will find great. And the amazing thing when I realized this was that great was literally around the corner. I'm not even joking. I decided I'm going to stop working with that original printing company. And I looked up a new one. I realized there was one around the corner for me. It was a little bit more of a walk, so it was a little less convenient. But once I showed up there, it was night and day from my original printing company. I was greeted when I walked in. The owner met me. He spent a half hour going through all of the projects I needed printed. He gave me many samples. I felt like I was having the premium experience. And I thought, oh my gosh, I had spent so many months putting up with all of this crap with the original printing company. If I had just decided earlier to stop tolerating, then I would have saved myself so much time, so much energy, and so much exhaustion. So I want you to think, what if this were possible for you? Okay? What if you knew that great was right around the corner? Maybe it's trying to believe in a better partner. You've been tolerating a relationship and you're like, I don't know if anyone else is out there. But what if you could believe and decide ahead of time that great is just around the corner? Right? If you're in a career right now that's not filling you up and you just know you're tolerating it, you're putting up with it because the paycheck is comfortable, what if you knew that the career of your dreams was around the corner and you could earn double or triple what you're earning in your current one now? Right? The first step is believing in it. If you believed in that, then what would that inspire you to do? What changes would you make? So I want to share how to stop tolerating something, how to actually stop. The first step is you've got to raise your baseline for what's acceptable in your life. You need to stop going for good enough. That good enough can no longer be the baseline for your life. You've got to decide it's time for you to elevate the caliber of the life that you live. Okay, the second step is you've got to redecide on your current circumstances. So sometimes we make decisions and that's it. We just think, okay, I decided to be with this mate and that's it. Or I decided this career and that's it. Or I decided to live in this city, that's it. You have to redecide on those things so you don't become at the effect of those decisions. So if you could decide on being with the partner you're with now, would you decide in this moment with who you are, would you redecide to choose them? Right? Would you choose to live in the same house or neighborhood that you're in right now if you could decide again today? Would you choose to be in the same career that you're in if you could decide again today? If it's not a resounding yes, that's an immediate indicator that things need to change. And then the third way to stop tolerating something is to recognize the cost and the impact that tolerating is having on you. One of the questions that I like presenting to clients, and that I'm going to present to you, is if nothing were to change in a year from now, what would that be like for you? If nothing were to change in your relationships, in your career, in your home environment, in any area of your life? What would it be like if nothing changed in a year from now? That's a great way to just get right to the truth and realize that something needs to change. Okay? So a question that often comes up and to ask yourself is there any influence that you can have to change the situation? Okay, so there might be, right? Are you asking for what you do want? So if you have a desire for a higher salary, ask for it, right? Start a conversation with your boss about goals that you can hit to make you eligible for a raise or a promotion, right? If you're in a relationship you're tolerating, ask for what you want that you're not getting in the relationship. Express what you see needs to change. But you cannot expect people to change. That's key. If getting what you want is going to require that someone else changes, your options are to continue tolerating or leave, okay? Because we cannot change other people. So I want to talk about what happens when we do let go of good in the pursuit of great. What actually happens when we let go of good or fine in the pursuit of great? Initially, there's going to be temporary discomfort, but then the whole world gets to open up to you. You get to create the life you've always wanted. So here's the thing. The comfortable life, it's always going to be available to you. It's actually quite easy to create a life of toleration. If you've already been able to do it for yourself now, you can do it again if all else fails. So it's easy to find a job and a relationship to settle with, right? When you set your standard for life at a 5 out of 10 or fine, it's very easy to meet that again. But when you pursue great, you're not going to want to go back to it, right? You will not want to settle for that anymore. Now, some people often worry about losing friends or family when they grow. And here's what my thought is about that. My thought is that you should never stay small for people who refuse to grow. Okay, the wrong people in your life are going to question you if you go out towards your dreams. They're going to judge you. The right people are going to stand with you. They're going to support your growth. They're going to grow with you. Okay, so as you go from good to great, do not stay small for people who refuse to grow. Sometimes people fear, what if I lose it all? What if I lose everything in the pursuit of good to great? What if I end up in a worse place than I was? Well, really ask yourself, do you honestly see that happening on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, how likely is that really that you're going to lose everything? And even if you did, so what? You'd have the most epic story. You would have no regrets. You'd have so many lessons. You just build your life back up and get it to a new place. I mean, what's the alternative? Just continuing to settle? Right? Like, I'd rather go out and have an epic adventure and have an epic fail and an amazing story to share about it than just settle and be comfortable and live a boring life or a mediocre existence. So it's very unlikely you're going to lose it all or end up in the worst place. I want to be clear about that. It's very unlikely that'll happen because your brain has already learned to sustain the life at the level that it's at right now. So maybe you're earning $50,000 and you're thinking of leaving that job to pursue a career path where you can earn over $100,000. This is sometimes what a lot of coaches bring up as they are joining the academy. They say, well, I'm really comfortable in my current career. I'm making $50K or whatever it is. And they realize that, it's scary to think about leaving that behind. But the good news is that you can always go find another job that pays you $50K, right? That's your baseline. That's the level of success your brain's already familiar with. It will be very easy to get that again. But it doesn't serve you to not give yourself the opportunity to create something more, just if you have the nudge to, right? So I like to have the thought, I can either win or learn, but never fail. I can either win or learn, but never fail. So as you pursue great, you get to accumulate so many lessons and so much growth, which makes life so amazing. Now, sometimes people wonder, is it ever useful to be tolerating something in your life? The answer is yes, it could be useful. You can consciously choose to tolerate something. But here's exactly why that would be beneficial. So if you have a goal to lose 10 pounds, you might decide to exercise for an hour a day for the next 2 months. Now, you may be tolerating those 1 hour daily workouts, but that's a good thing because it's bringing you closer to a result that you ultimately want, right? So the year before I decided to become a coach, I took on many different jobs that I tolerated. They were all fine. I was not fulfilled in the side jobs and the side hustles I would do, the year before I became a coach. But all of those part-time jobs allowed me to save up money to invest in mentorship and coach training, which was a result that I ultimately wanted. So in that case, it made sense to tolerate. I was mindfully tolerating something temporarily in pursuit of creating the life I ultimately wanted. But the thing is, what most people do is they just tolerate people and things that are not bringing them closer to what they want. It's just keeping them stuck in a life that they don't want. So I want to end with this concept I talk about, which is risk or regret. Because in life, we're either choosing one. We're either choosing the path of risk or the path of regret. And I say, always choose the path of risk because you get lessons, you get to learn, right? Sometimes when I talk to people, they say, I don't know, going from good to great, leaving behind what's comfortable, it seems very risky, right? There's always going to be risk when you go after your dreams. But if you don't risk things, you end up with regret. So you either choose risk or regret. And I've never heard of someone regretting going after their dreams and saying, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I continued playing small. No, they always feel great about taking the risk and betting on themselves. So if your brain is only considering the risk, it's only fair to consider, what would you regret if you didn't at least give yourself the chance? Because I believe that the greatest risk that we take in life is keeping things as they are and not getting to see what you're capable of, not betting on yourself, not giving yourself the chance in this one life that you have to live to thrive. So I always choose the path of adventure, and I believe it's always worth it. So finally, I want to end with this. Sometimes people say, I think I should just be grateful for what I have. To that, I say that whenever you desire change in your life, it doesn't mean that you're ungrateful, right? Gratitude should not be an excuse to stay small. So don't use your gratitude against you. When you really sink into gratitude, you start appreciating what you have and allowing it to expand. I think that's what gratitude really is. Gratitude is not about tolerating what you have and minimizing your evolution. Gratitude is, I am so appreciative for what I have, and I'm also ready to welcome more of it. I'm ready to expand and grow from here. So you are allowed to be grateful for what you have and also want more. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't have to get it right. You just have to get it going. And the best time to get it going is right here, right now, today. So no more tolerations. Go after the life that you truly want. All right, that's what I got in this episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, would you like access to powerful coaching tools you can use on yourself and clients right away? For being a listener of the podcast, I'm giving you a VIP guest pass to get a sneak peek into my coach training program. Inside, you'll learn our coach's secret tool they use to transform their clients' lives. And you'll also get a training on how to launch a coaching business. Just head over to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP to get started. I'll see you on the inside.